I'm Tom Clark, and welcome back to Power Play. You know, there's a number of different ways to gauge what the Canadian public is thinking. You can either go and take a look at some polls, you can talk to influential politicians who tell you that they know exactly what's going on, or you can go to the people who run the radio talk shows across this country who talk to Canadians for hours and hours every single day, and that is exactly what we're going to do right now. So, from Vancouver, Bill Good from CKNW in Vancouver, part of the Chorus Entertainment Network. In Winnipeg, Charles Adler, CJOB, and Charles Adler is also syndicated on Chorus. And from Toronto, John Moore from News Talk 1010 CFRB Radio in Toronto. Welcome to you all. Good to have you here. Let me start off by going around the pike here and ask each of you, what are the people saying about this issue that is consuming Ottawa right now, which is prorogation, the dismissal of Parliament? Bill, what's happening on the West Coast?
Tom, if you'd asked me a week ago, I would have said not much. Interestingly enough, I don't think they were paying much attention to Parliament at that time. The Afghan detainees was not registering particularly on our open lines. But since they've prorogued Parliament, since the Prime Minister has taken this step, and the social networking sites have started to grow, people are getting more and more interested in it. So I think there's an irony in
that. Charles, what are you hearing?
Well, you know, the thing is that it's easy to talk about over 140,000 people on Facebook. My guess is that Paris Hilton started a Facebook page and said, I'm Paris, I'm lonely, and I've got a room. You'd probably get 300,000 or 400,000 people signed up quickly. I don't know how many people will get up for the demonstration. I did make the mistake last week, some people would say, of saying, nobody gives a rat's rear end about this issue. And, of course, the lines lit up like the proverbial Christmas tree. Chuck, you're wrong, I care deeply. We'll find out how deep it is on January 23rd when 10 or 20,000 people show up spilling into the streets of Canada.
Yeah, and John, from your perspective, because you...
And we move back to the super hack Charles Adler.
Comes, but if this starts to engage younger Canadians in politics, I think it can be an interesting time.
And Charles, from a political point of view, you know, we look at it through this prism. We're saying, well, is this a game changer? Is this going to convince people to vote for the Liberals or the NDP because they don't like what the Conservatives did with parliamentary procedure? Are you getting that sense at all that this could actually move votes, or at least, you know, maybe deny the Conservatives a majority government the next time around? Or is it less than that?
Tom, I think if it was connected to an issue that people care deeply about, I know we're all supposed to care about human rights in general. Obviously, in the abstract we do, but we feel about our troops much more than we feel about some of the stuff that's gone on this Afghan issue, and the fact that our troops handed over Taliban suspects, and lo and behold, they got treated by a third world police force like a third world police force. I don't think anybody is really truly shocked by that. If it was a different issue, if it was AdScam, or if it was HST, GST, something that people really feel in their hearts and their pocketbooks, and the Prime Minister decided to just put a meat cleaver to it, then I think you'd have more than just Facebook. You'd have real opposition from real folks, and they would spill into the streets over that one.
Okay, and that leads, John, into this question, that when you are talking to your audience, are they more interested in talking about, because it's Ontario, they more interested in talking about the HST, that bread and butter economic issue, or do they get more fired up about this prorogation or even the Afghan detainee issue?
Well, you know what, Tom, I'm glad you mentioned the HST, because I think that's another illustration of something that was supposed to be the end of the world in terms of a public debate. And certainly on talk radio, the columnists, the pundits, and the opposition in Ontario over the harmonized sales tax, everybody was united. This was going to be the Waterloo for Dalton McGuinty. Before Christmas, it passed. It comes into effect in July. People are not talking about the HST, and I think it's a similar battle. It's something that is great fuel for public controversy, but there wasn't one single significant protest over the HST, and I don't believe there's going to be that big a protest over proroguing a parliament. And that doesn't mean that I don't think this is important, and I disagree with Charles. I think that it is important if you're going to lay down your lives of your soldiers in the name of democracy and you know, ending tyranny and all that sort of thing in Afghanistan. They better not be participating in or enabling torture, but it doesn't mean the general population finds any resonance in that.
Bill, what is motivating people these days? If it is not, you know, and we'll see whether people turn out for this protest or not, and how serious this Facebook revolution is. But what is grabbing the attention of people? What is politically the issue of the day that could move things? Is it the economy? What are you picking up?
Well, I think it's basically around the economy, and I think John touched on it. The HST, we had the carbon tax a year ago here in British Columbia. We had 150,000 people on Facebook's upset about the carbon tax. Then gas prices receded, and the carbon tax went away as a political issue, and Gordon Campbell got reelected. A similar number of people are upset about the HST. I don't think it's gone away. I think it will resurface in July when it starts to actually hit people in the pocketbook. Right now, we're focusing more and more on the Olympics, which are due to start here a month from tomorrow. And I think this is part of what's surprising what the Prime Minister did. I understand the political argument that they'd like to be free of debate during the Olympics, and well, people are coming here from around the world. But I think for that very reason, not many people are going to be paying attention to Parliament, even if it was sitting. So I'm not sure he's accomplished a great deal with this prorogation. The supporters of the Prime Minister don't say we favor prorogation. They say, oh, Mr. Chrétien did it, Mr. Trudeau did it, Mr. Mulroney did it. This is not all that unusual.
And Charles, are we moving into this sort of post? Go ahead.
I think what we're learning here, the moral of this story is, the name of this tune is, Canada is not France. You know, the French look for a reason to get galvanized and get emotional about politics. Canada's the opposite. We look for a reason to just go back to our business. In this case, to go back to enjoying the Olympics.
And John,
our capital takes a little more. It's a little harder to go and march on Ottawa in this country if you're coming from Vancouver or Calgary.
John, let me go to you. Do you think that we're in a period in this country where politics matters less and less no matter what the issue is? I mean, you get the sense that here we are, a country nominally at war in any case, with a parliament that has been suspended, and yet, despite the fact that people want to talk about it, it doesn't seem to be moving very much. Are we in a post-political phase here?
I don't think so. I think it's temporary, it's transitory. My theory is, and has been ever since the first election where the Conservatives took over, is that Canadians largely feel this is the government and the balance of power that they want. And you'll notice in the polling, every time the Prime Minister gets cocky and moves in on majority territory, all of a sudden people withdraw their support. The moment it looks like the opposition might be capable of bringing this government down, people back off and run to the Tories. I think this minority parliament, even though it's somewhat dysfunctional, is largely what Canadians desire. It's representative of their current desire. And so they're thinking, get back to me some other day. I really don't care. This is not changing my life.
You guys all understand about deadlines, and I've just met mine. We're out of time, but I want to thank you. An example of why talk radio is important in this country. Bill Good, CKNW in Vancouver, Charles Adler, CJOB in Winnipeg, and also with the Corus Network, and of course John Moore, News Talk 1010, part of Astro Media. Thank you all very much. Great discussion. Power Play returns right after this.
This is CTV News.
This summer, she was the only girl in the world who made this once married cynic ask the